Hi, it's me JD and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be making some easy pop-up cards with my Cricut Explore Air 2. A big thank you goes out to Cricut for sponsoring this video. Yay, my first sponsorship! With my Cricut Explore Air 2, or basically any of the Cricut machines they offer now, you have so many options of different pop-up cards, regular cards, or any 3D paper crafts. There's literally hundreds of thousands of images and designs within the Cricut Design Space, or you can create your own if you want and just have the machine cut it out for you. Personally, my favorite part of the Cricut card making process is that I just send my design to the machine. It does all the cutting for me. I can step aside and do some other things while the machine's doing all the work. For example, while the machine is doing all the scoring and all the cutting, I can feel secure in stepping away and cleaning my craft supplies, dusting my desk area, checking all the social medias on my phone, playing with my office toys, or just spinning around in my chair. Then when the machine is done, you come back, peel your material off the cutting mat, and then just assemble. Next, I'll show you examples of 4 pop-up card designs that you can make with your Cricut machine, like an Explore Air 2. These pop-up cards can be as simple or as intricate as you want it to be. Best part is, you don't have to keep track of any metal die. All of the designs are within Design Space, so you can find them with ease at any time. So sit back, subscribe, and let's get to cutting. Once you've got your Cricut machine powered on and your Design Space on your desktop ready to go, you can start browsing for projects and images to start. First, I'm going to hit New Project, and then I'll go to Images, and I'll search the word Pop-Up. And these will give me a bunch of images or projects that are related to pop-up cards. I tend to choose images that show the end result, like this one. I'm looking over the image to make sure it's the dimensions I want and the layers are correct. And I'm seeing a little error message where it says draw, because it's not supported by my Explore Air 2, but that's no problem because I'll just add my own sentiment in later. Then I'll hit the big green Make It button at the top right. This leads me to the preview screen where I can see the images on the mats that they're supposed to be cut on. So this requires 2 different mats of cardstock, or I should say 2 different pass-throughs through the machine. I'll then hit Continue so Design Space can connect to my machine. While I am waiting, I'll show you the 2 different pass-throughs that the machine will do. First one will cut out the envelope as well as the backing piece for the 3D piece. And once that's done cutting, the other pass-through will be the 3D piece featuring the bears. With pop-up files on Cricut Design Space, you'll also need a scoring tool because it will actually score your handmade card as well, so that will also save you time. So I've got my mat almost loaded. The blinking light on the right is, blinking. And I just want to make sure that my material is set on the right knob. I just unloaded and loaded my mat again real quickly because it looked to be a little bit crooked. So I'll just hit unload and load, and my scoring tool is in and the Cricut button should come on. And many of you have asked me how long it takes to Cricut Explore Air 2 to cut materials out. So I thought I would time it so you guys would have a good understanding of how this process works and how long it takes. So I'll hit the Cricut button to start the cutting and scoring process. And this is the first mat, or the first pass-through of the mat. The paper and cutting mat are securely in there, so I don't have to worry about looking at the machine or tending to the machine. I can go clean up my desk or go get a drink or do whatever I have to do. As you guys saw, it's pretty easy to get this up and going. It's kind of like sending something to the printer. You just select an image and then make sure your image is laid out correctly and then sending it to the machine for it to score and cut. If you've seen my other Cricut videos, then you've seen that the Cricut can cut whole cards out, it can cut word cuts, it can make decorations, it can personalize paper crafts or any other gifts you can think of. I invested in the Cricut just because it can go beyond card making. It can make so many other things. But if you're a hardcore card maker, it can definitely save you money and space. And depending on how intricate your design is, it might even save you time. Metal dies can be expensive and they do take up space. And if you have a Cricut Explore Air 2 like mine, you can just cut out your design and have it be a one-time thing, or you can cut out multiple projects from it and save time that way. The first pass through was done in about less than a minute and a half, and now I'll run it the second pass through on the second match. And so the whole cutting time was less than 2.5 minutes. Now that my cardstock pieces are all cut, I just peel them off the mat, and now it's time to pop them off the cardstock and get rid of all those negative pieces and start assembling my pop-up card. I'll start with the envelope first. I'm going to fold in the sides and then the flaps. The machine already made the score lines for me, so I know exactly where to fold. And then I'll use some strong tape to place along the sides and then adhere that to the bottom flap. I placed that score tape a little higher than I intended to, so I'm just going to trim that excess off. I'll set this aside while I work on the main card. When you first pop out that 3D card piece, you might be wondering, like, what am I supposed to fold here? But that's why I like choosing images that already have the end result so I can go back and refer to it. And once you see that and compare it to what you cut out, it's much easier to visualize what you're supposed to pop out and what you're supposed to keep and what you're supposed to fold. In general, for this point of the process, I would say my tips would be to reference what the end result is going to be, see if there's any specific instructions, then be very careful as you don't want to tear the wrong thing, and just take your time. It's not a race, and it will start coming together once you start popping out pieces one at a time. When you've done enough of this, you'll realize that the tabs always go inward, as in they fold inwards, and the pop-up pieces pop alongside that, and you're supposed to fold those as well. And once this piece is already like tested and you make sure that once you fold it, it does indeed pop up, then you can pop out the backing piece for it. This is the piece that fills in all of that blank area of your pop-up card. Mine came with one, yours might not. If not, that's okay. You can just cut one down to size. It's just another note card to go on to the back of your 3D card. This piece is what the outside of the card would look like. So when people view the front and the back, this is the piece they're going to see. For this portion, I'm going to use liquid adhesive to glue the pop-up element piece to that backing piece. That way it gives me a little bit of wiggle room before committing to gluing the entire thing down. So I like to glue the bottom piece first, and then I place glue on the top part and then fold the entire thing down so the note card picks up the top portion of the 3D pop-up element. Just be careful as to not place glue on any of the elements that are supposed to pop up and move. And when you're sure that all of your elements are working correctly and it folds down nicely, and you can even write a little sentiment on the inside or the outside, you can just stick the entire card into your custom-made envelope and rest assured that it will be a perfect fit. And here is one last look at the polar bear pop-up card made with Cricut. Another way to make a pop-up card using a Cricut Explore Air 2 is to choose an image that cuts out your sentiment while it's cutting out your 3D card. I chose this pop-up thank you image for my next card. And like before, this layer is not compatible with my machine, so I'll just click the eyeball and deselect that layer so it's no longer active, and then my machine won't have to worry about processing or cutting that piece or drawing that piece, whatever it's supposed to do. Then I'll hit make it to preview it, and this requires 2 pass-throughs. So the first one will cut the 3D element piece, and the second pass-through will cut the envelope part and the backing part and some other little extras. Then I'll just hit continue to send it to the machine. 2 different colored cardstocks, as well as 2 pass-throughs through my Cricut machine, and about 3.5 minutes later, I've got all the elements I need to create my 3D pop-up thank you card. I'll quickly assemble the envelope, same as before. Then I will fold along the score lines that the Cricut made and pop out all of those pieces that are supposed to be popped out, and just testing this back and forth to make sure everything is working the way it's supposed to be working. This design file or image actually cut out a thanks banner for me to place along my pop-up element, so my sentiment is cut directly into my pop-up card. I just use strong liquid adhesive to glue that banner on there, and as well as gluing down the 3D pop-up inner piece to my backing note card. And then I'll wiggle it just a little bit to make sure everything's aligned. And like before, I only glue the bottom piece first, and then I glue the top part of the pop-up element, being very careful not to glue down where it's supposed to be moving. And then I fold that down and then fold the top part of the backing note card down to help pick that piece up. Then it's time to test to see if everything is in working order, which it is, and to see if it fits within this custom envelope, which it does. What's cracking in this next Cricut pop-up card is I'm gonna make a Kraken. This one is going to be a little bit more involved than the first two cards. The first two cards, cut out one or two pieces and then you were finished. This one has a little bit more pieces to assemble together, but I thought I would show you all of these pop-up cards in a range from least difficult to most difficult. But even the most difficult is not that difficult. Like the other designs, I'm going to send this to the preview screen where it shows me I have two pass-throughs, so I'll need two different colored cardstocks. One for looks like the pop-up piece with some waves and stuff, and the other makes the Kraken tentacles as well as the coordinating envelope. Now I'm going to go back to that first mat on the preview screen, or the first pass-through. You see that the paper it needs is going to be pretty large, almost like a 12 by 12 scrapbook paper. Well, I didn't want to cut it out of 12 by 12 scrapbook. I wanted to cut it out of 8.5 by 11 inch cardstock. So what I'll do is I'll select the tentacles, which is that green, olive green color, and I'm going to change that to a different color, thereby putting it on a different quote-unquote mat or a different pass-through through the machine. I'm actually not going to cut it out of a different color cardstock. I'm just telling Design Space and Cricut to put this on a third pass-through rather than two pass-throughs. And as you see, now there's 3 different mats, meaning 3 different pass-throughs of the machine. This way I don't have to use 12 by 12 inch scrapbook paper. I can just use my regular cardstock, but just run it through my machine 3 different times to cut out the pieces I need. Once I'm satisfied with the placement, I'll just hit continue and get to cutting. This design had a lot of detailing with the tentacles and the waves. Even so, to cut out all 3 pieces of cardstock, including loading and unload time, only took about 7 minutes. The pop-up elements of this card were actually easy to pop out since there was only about 2 pop-up tabs. So that was simple enough. And now I'm just putting together all the details and tentacles of the card. I'm using strong liquid adhesive to glue those tentacles onto the pop-up tabs. Just being very delicate, it's like playing Operation. And then I'll stick on the waves and I'll let the whole thing set by itself to dry. Once it's dry, I'm just going to test the entire thing, make sure everything pops up without sticking to anything else or falling off. And then I will put some more liquid adhesive on the bottom side of this pop-up card and place that on the bottom part of my backing note card. Then I'll place some more glue on the top part and then push the top part of the backing note card down to pick up the rest of that 3D inner piece. And just testing it to make sure that everything works and everything's not sticking or falling off, and it does. And look how cool this Kraken card is. I love it. It looks like it's bursting out of the ocean. The custom envelope that came with this design was a little bigger than the previous cards, and now I know why. It's because it had to make room for all those tentacles to be bursting out. This last pop-up card design is the most intricate of all of the pop-up cards because it is a roller coaster and there's lots of little extra pieces to cut out. Another tip if you're going to make pop-up cards is that you can resize your cards to make them as big or small as you want. You just want to make sure that you're also resizing the envelope so everything stays in the right proportion. Now I will hit make it to go to the preview screen, and it's going to cut out a backing piece, it's going to cut out an envelope piece, and it's going to cut out the actual 3D piece. Then I'll hit continue to get to cutting. While the Cricut is cutting out this piece, I just want to reiterate that all of these designs and images were found on Cricut Access. That's a subscription. If you do subscribe, you get access to over 100,000 different images and projects and designs, and it's only a couple of dollars a month. So if you consider how much one single metal die costs, then I think the price of a subscription is well worth it. To cut out the envelope, the backing piece, and the 3D elements with all the little parts of the roller coaster took about 11 minutes. As shown in my other Cricut videos, when you're peeling your cardstock off your cutting mat, you always want to peel the mat off of the cardstock to help keep the cardstock as flat as possible and minimize any curling. And now you get to do the fun part of popping out all of those little pieces. I'll save you a couple minutes and skip that part. But they do come out rather easily, so the Cricut does definitely cut delicate and intricate designs with ease. Now it's a matter of just carefully folding along those score lines that the Cricut scoring stylus made and making sure that this pop-up card is popping up just right. Now it's time to add some glue to the bottom portion of this pop-out piece. Then the top portion of the pop-out piece, and fold my backing note card down to make sure that everything is picked up and glued just right. Then for a quick test to make sure everything is working properly and all the proper pieces are glued down and it's still popping my pop-up card, then I'll put this in the envelope to make sure everything fits and can seal correctly when I mail this off. Thank you all so much for watching this little pop-up card party with the Cricut Explore Air 2. All of the design files I used in this video will be listed down below in the description, and I will catch you guys in the next video.